G'day, how you doing? Adam here from Poseidon Racing. Almost forgot where I was from. Poseidon Racing. It's been a while. I've been a bit busy moving house, moving studio, so that's why not so many videos lately, and probably for the next couple of months you'll see maybe one a month when there's something important. And today I think there is something important because have you seen the Zed Run bred horse prices? They have been absolutely crashing, haven't they? And it's not unexpected. The free money syndrome, right? If you can breed a horse for $100 and sell it for $200, will you do it? Of course you will, and so will everyone else, okay? So I expect that the sale prices are going to somewhat come into balance with the cost eventually, and I think it's already doing that at some levels of Zed Run for sure. So that's what we're going to look at today. We're going to look at cost price versus sale price, talk a little bit about those influences and talk about some things that Zed can do to maybe increase the value of the floor, the base price of those horses in the future, okay? Let's have a look at it. Let's move over to here. Let me just refresh that breeding. All right, I don't want this video to be, this will be a long video, but I don't want it to be hectically long. So we're going to just take a bit of a snapshot of some different areas of the market and try and make some assumptions from there. Not financial advice, never listen to anything I say because my numbers are always haphazard and probably wrong, but there's something to think about. Well, hopefully it's something to think about. You might just say, this guy's just a gibberer and I'm not going to listen to him and I'm just going to unsubscribe. That's okay too, whatever, whatever. All right, so let's have a look at, if we had a 2 Z30 exclusives. If we bred a Z30 exclusive with another Z30 exclusive, we'll get a Z60. We will get a Z60 elite. All right, so let's do that. We want Buterins and we want exclusives. All right, it's going to cost you $80 if you don't own the stud. If you do own the stud, it's a little bit cheaper. We'll talk about that in a moment. Okay, so it's going to cost you $80. Let's come over here to OpenSea. And we want, yeah, Buterin is correct. Breed type, we want elite. Get rid of Pacer there. And let's see if there's many, what did I say? Z30, Z30, Z60, did I? I think I did. Yes. Only one for buy it now. There's not a lot there, is there? Okay, so that makes it kind of, well, the fact there's not many for sale is good, but if I suppose we could get a similar scenario from like all the way down to Z50, so let's go Z50, tick that. Let's try and bump through this pretty quick. 51s, oh, 52s, 53s. Exciting YouTube, isn't it? This is just enthralling stuff. Okay, note to Zed, ask OpenSea to put a sliding filter on this, please. 55 already done. It'd be great if I could just go Z50 to 60 in a sliding scale. Why can't we do that? Of course we can. We will get there eventually, all right. Okay. So this is roughly about what you can expect. All right, so it's going to cost you $81 and the floor is currently at 0.0252. We'll keep it in US dollars, which is $75. So you're going to lose money if you don't own the colt on that. Okay, we're finding that equilibrium. All right, all the free money on that style breeding has been taken out of the system and now we're finding that the supply is somewhat meeting the demand, and if the supply keeps surging, if people keep breeding, the supply will overtake demand and you'll start seeing some pretty significant losses not financial advice, if we keep going in this direction. But I would expect then, once you start seeing some losses, once people can't sell their horse for more than what they bred it for, you will see the supply start to level off or taper off or lessen, and you'll see that demand start meeting supply. And I would expect this to level off around about where this is now, around about here. Now, if you own the colt, of course, you can get a 55% discount. You're probably like, 55%, how are you doing that? Well, it might even be 57, I can't remember the exact number, but it's around 55. If you breed in-house, of course, there's a 35% discount, but if you've got your stud in one stable and your filly in another one, you've got two stables, fillies here, studs here, then essentially, when you put your horse in, your stud in for 7 days, you are going to get a 55% commission on that. So if you buy your own cover, you'll get a 55% commission, which is exactly the same, might be 57, I can't remember, which is exactly the same as a 55% discount. So you got, we'll call it $82, buy 0.55. You're going to get $45 off, minus 82. So it's going to cost you roughly $37. Still good money, isn't it? That's good. That's a good ROI. Okay? If it's costing you, if you own both of those horses, it can cost you, if you're doing all the right things, $37, $38. And look, selling it for almost double that. So 100% ROI. So there's still good money in it as long as you own the stud, as long as you own the male. All right. Now, I would imagine this may somewhat dwindle. Well, I don't know that for sure, but maybe it's similar as you go out in Z number. Maybe the higher Z numbers may not be as desirable. All right, so that's cool. All right, what if we were to Z10? Is that going to let me type 10? No, it's bloody not. Let's put that at 1, change that to 10. A little bit funny, isn't it? All right, Z10 Genesis, Buterin. What if we bred two Z10s together? We're going to get a Z20 Legendary. Again, a Buterin. Legendary. Bloodline, Buterin. And we want to look at Z20. Plenty of these to compare, isn't there? All right, so let's have a look at colts first. Now keep in mind on that last scenario, that was probably a colt price we were looking at, so the filly price might be even higher. So there might still be some margin in on average, even if you don't own the colt, but it wouldn't be much. But if you do own the colt, there still looks to be a good margin there. Whether that stays that way, we will see as the market demand sort of ebbs and flows. We will talk about potential solutions and potential triggers for the prices to go up or even down maybe as well. So 20, All right, let's have a look at colts first. So these are going, if you don't own the stud, it's going to cost you 110 currently. And I want to see colt unraced or unnamed. Now, of course, some of these could be, I'm looking for unnamed ones specifically, so you just breed it and sell it as is. Here we go. All right, so it's going to currently, in this particular market, for a colt, it's going to cost you, if you don't own it, 110. You're still making $25 on that. So what's that? You know, 18, 20% return on your money. Not bad. There's still some margin there too. Now, keep in mind, it's not the margin you were probably making 3 months ago. You might have been making 100, 200% 3 months ago, I don't know, but there's still a margin there. Now, as again, free money, people are going to keep breeding while there's money there. Let's change that over to filly, and I expect there to be a little bit more money in the fillies for an unnamed, unraced. Here we go. Not a lot, but yeah, a little bit more. Okay, so there's still a margin there too. Now, that's even if you don't own the colt. If you just have a Z10 Genesis Buterin, there's still money in it even if you don't own the colt. If you do own the colt, there's great money still in it. So I expect the price Could see some downward pressure from here, just on the fact that there's still profit to be made. So there's still free money, so people are going to keep breeding. 109 by 0.55. If you own the colt, got them in separate stables, it's going to cost you minus, that's your discount, about $50. All right, it's about $50 a horse. You're making 150. Still pretty nice. All right, let's move up. Let's move up. Let's go to, let's have a look if you bred two Z5s, Finny Genesis together. So you're going to get, they're $154, and you're going to get a Z10 Legendary. So we'll keep it at Legendary, get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that. Legendary, Bloodline, Finny. What was that? And we wanted a Z10, didn't we? Z10 Legend. All right, there's plenty of these. And we'll start with colts. Is there any money in these? If you don't own, first of all, if you don't own the stud and you get a colt. Again, just looking for unnamed. All right. So apparently, they look pretty healthy, those prices. Someone picked up a bargain here, but currently the cheapest unnamed, unraced on the market, and that's what we're gauging this on currently. So you just breed, you don't name it. You know, you could increase value by naming it, you could decrease value. A lot of people like to name their own horses. $300 we'll call it, and it's, really? Wow. Have I got this wrong? Yeah, I think I do have this wrong. Why are you showing me Buta and Z9s on this graph? Excuse me. Okay, let's try these filters again. I want a 5, I want a 5, I want a Finny, I want a Genesis. Costing you $154 if you don't own it, and you're making $300 apparently if it sells for that price. So, and I'm assuming they are selling somewhere roughly around about that. All right, so that is still great money. And if we switch that to fillies, is there more money in a filly? So on average, is there more? Holy dooly. 600. Wow. So if you're breeding from minimum and you don't, so if you manage to jag a Z5 Genesis Finny at minimum, plenty of dosh in that. It's only costing you $154. And if you get a filly, you could be getting somewhere around 600. And if you get a colt, what was a colt? Colt was 300. Plenty of dosh. Now, of course, if you own the Finny yourself, 154 by 0.55, your discount's going to be $84 minus the 155 roughly. It's going to cost you $70. So there's absolutely lots of money in, unless I'm getting these figures wrong, which I probably am. But anyway, it's something to think about, something to do your own research on. But there's plenty of money in breeding two Z5 Finnies together at this point. All right, now, what if we bred, now this is going to get complex. What if we had two Z10 Legendary Finnies, or roughly around there? So we'll make that. It's not going to let me type in 10, is it? Yeah, that'll do. 10, I don't want Genesis, I want Legendary now. So you know, roughly breeding 2 Z10 legendary Finnies, so you're going to get a Z20 legendary exclusive out of this. That's going to cost you $140. Come back here. We don't want legendary now. We're now talking about roughly a Z20 or so, maybe out to 30, Finny exclusive, because that will be the result. So we want exclusive. Yeah, we can stick with colts initially. Let's see what, okay, unnamed. What is this one? Yeah, that's roughly in our target. Okay, so a colt is $90. So that, we start losing our profit pretty quickly once you get beyond legendary, don't you? That certainly seems to be the case. Because right here, if you're breeding, you know, a couple of Finnies together and getting a colt, a couple of Finny legendaries together and you're getting an exclusive colt, seems like the price is about $90 and it's going to cost you, if you don't own the stud, it's going to cost you $140. That's not great. That's not great. What about fillies? I wonder, how do we lose Zed Run there? Hello, come on. Beautiful YouTube this is, isn't it? All right, there we go there, collections. Oh, we got Zed Run back. There we go. All right. Finny exclusive, all right, we wanted to see if the fillies were a little bit better off on this level. Unnamed. There we go, 0.035, $105. If you're breeding Finny exclusives, it looks a bit bleak, to be honest. Unless if you don't own that. Where'd my calculator go? You don't own that stud. If you do own the stud, 140 by 0.55, you'll get a discount of $77 minus the 140. Will cost you $63. So there's a little bit of money still in there if you own that stud, but it's looking fairly bleak as we get out there. And I'm assuming that's probably the case. Let's have a across the board that at the legendary level, there's still a lot of interest and there's still a bit of money to be made. But as you get into the exclusive level, breeding those lower end breed types, looks like we're getting down to that balance point of where the cost of breeding is roughly going to be the cost of the sale price at this point. Now let's have a look at Zarbos quickly. Let's just refresh that page. And we'll have a quick look at Max too. Zarbos, so let's go with Genesis. Zarbos start at 3, don't they? So 3 and 3. $300. Best case scenario, you're going to produce a Z6 legendary. What are they worth? We don't want that. We don't want that. We don't want that. Breed type, legendary. Bloodline, Zarbo. And genotype, let's go with a Z6 for now. There we go. 2 Z3s, male, female, Z3 Zarbo Genesis. Going to cost you $300 if you don't own the stud. Unnamed foal, I'm assuming this is a colt. It is, the cheapest ones are generally the colt. $812. So still plenty of money in creating legendaries, isn't there? Okay, still plenty of dollars in that. And if we come back and have a look at the exclusives, sorry, not the exclusives, we want to look at the fillies. There we go, 0.35, so that plenty of coin there. Plenty of coin seemingly in that. Now if we change that to, let's say we breed a couple of Z6 legendary Zarbos, so we're getting the exclusive level Zarbs. So we need to change this to like 6, and that one to 6, and then that one to legendary. What's that cost us? Oh, there's not a lot of discount, is there, between a Genesis breeding fee and the legendary breeding fee? Maybe that could be looked at. So there's a potential solution for trying to make or trying to get a little bit of profit back into those lower breed types. I don't think that's a permanent solution because the whole free money thing is going to pull the price back down again too. So what we need to do, and we'll talk about that in a moment once we skim through, you know, the exclusive level here, have a look at the legendaries, see if there's any money in the exclusives. We'll have a look at what might stimulate this market moving forward. All right, so back here, so we don't want legendary, we don't want 6s, we don't want that necessarily. We want exclusives now, and it's going to be around about Z6, Z6, let's assume we were breeding 2 Z6 legends, so around the 12, 13, 14, 15 mark for the Z type. The perfect scenario, of course, is Z12. Let's have a look at that. So that's 2 Z6 legendaries going together, Zarbs. There's probably other combos you could do as well, of course. But for the time being, let's have a look and see what these look like. Gender, let's have a look at colts first. Now keep in mind they're costing $285 if you don't own the stud. Looking for unnamed, there's the first one there. Still plenty of coin up there in the Zarbs, isn't there? 361. All right, and the fillies will no doubt be more than that. Let's have a look. Filly. 0.1. Oh, that's unusual, isn't it? It's only a little bit of money in that filly, so maybe, yeah, maybe that colt was a little bit high. So maybe we are finding that balance point there as well. But once again, if you do own those horses, I keep losing the calculator. Stop hiding my calculator. All right, once again, I don't know. Once again, if you do own that, 285 by 0.55 is your discount. And we'll minus off the 285 to give us a cost, $128. There's still plenty of coin in that. If you own the stud, separate stables, 55% discount, it's still there. All right, and let's have a little look at NACs. NAC 1, Genesis, boom, boom, boom. This is a little bit different because I want minimum. Was I looking at the minimum before? Maybe that wasn't an accurate minimum. All good though, all good. You can do your own research. As I said, my numbers are always a bit haphazard, as you know. All right, so it looks like the minimum might be like down around here, 745. Now, I happen to know that, well, I have a pretty decent information that there's a bot running on Z1 minimums. All right, so the chance of you getting one of those is very, very slim unless you own the stud and you can get it in and out really, really quick. And I don't even think that's the minimum, to be honest. I think the minimum's even lower than that. I think the minimum on these might be $400 or $500. If I change that to 2, yeah, you can see there, 407. But the chance of you getting a Z1 for $400 or $500 is zip-de-doo-dah. So we'll base it on 750. Now, if we breed 2 Z1s together, we're going to get, of course, a Z2. I happen to know there's still plenty of money up in this region. Legendary. And I guess when you're paying the money you're paying for Z1s, you would want there to be money up there, wouldn't you? Legendary. Genotype, where's it? Z2. We go to gender being colt. What's the first unnamed? About 1 ETH they were. Maybe they've come down a little bit. You can see the named ones are, well, they've come down a lot. They were 1/8 only about a week ago. You can see now they're going for 0.6, and they're going to cost you, best case scenario, which you're probably not going to get. You're probably going to, up around this $1,000 range, you might be able to get. Even then, you might be struggling. So, you know, if you own the stud, you're going to be much better off, because number one, you'll know when it's going in there, and you'll also get that 55% discount. So if you do manage to jag one at around the $700, and no wonder there's a bot running, right? Because if you get one at $700 or $800, then you're going to be able to sell it for $1,000 profit. So that's a pretty nice bot, isn't it? All right, so there's still plenty of money in the Z1s, and of course, if you own if you own the stud yourself, you're going to get a really healthy 55% discount, which really makes a huge difference on the return of these horses as well. Now, of course, the fillies will be likely slightly better than the colts too. What are they going for? There you go. They're going for a big sum. 1.5 is the lowest. Okay. So that's pretty juicy. That's pretty juicy. Now, let's switch back. So let's just surmise that for a moment. Still plenty of money at the high end in the Nakamotos and 𝐵𝐼𝐼s across the board potentially, but as you're drifting off into the lower breed types, like getting away from the legendaries and into the exclusive and elites, you're starting to see those prices level off at roughly close to the minimum breeding prices. And then as you're getting down into the Buterins, where there's a lot of people wanting to breed and breeding, and to be honest, a lot of horses that aren't particularly doing well in the current ecosystem, so that's going to put negative pressure on the floor as well. So down there, you need to be sort of a bit careful. If you want to breed for profit, then you're going to have to be really choosy now, which is the way it should be. Like the free money stage is sort of coming to an end. Will we see free money, you know, in the future again? Well, potentially. If we get a really big uptick in people coming into the game, or we get some really positive news, or we get some more major stimulus into the Zed Run economy. We just had the free race increase, but there was also that deal that they did with the online gambling that we're going to put 30 million directly injected into the racing system. If you look back at the announcements, you'll see that. You know, these kind of things could have a significant uptick in the ROI, the racing ROI, also some of the improvements that are potentially coming, the donkey races, the 0% races and the 0 to 5% races coming, which will help the donkeys. That could all see, you know, those donkeys have a little bit more value, which is great. But in the meantime, you know, it's to be expected that you will see these prices drift down, drift down, drift down. Now, the reason, of course, that the Buterin level has found that equilibrium close to the cost price, and don't get me wrong, it could go below the cost price as well in the future. It could also go back up if we see a little bit of an influx of players coming into the system. But just keep that in mind. But the reason the Buterins have come down quicker is there's more Buterin fillies being bred each month than, for example, what there is at the higher end. So that has an influence as well. Now, what can we do in the future? I had a few notes on my phone here. What can we see Zed do? What could Zed do? And this is the reason I'm not overly concerned about this, is number one, that I expected this to be the case. And I expect that there will, for the most part, always be some profit, not financial advice, some profit if you own the stud. Okay, I believe that you will see some sort of return on breeding if you own the stud and you're doing it correctly and getting that 55% discount. Now, on that 55% discount, I also expect Zed Run to bring in private breeding, right? Stick with me. Private breeding, which will be, you will be able to breed in your stable without having to worry about snipers. But what I see happening there is you'll have to have the two horses in your own stable, and you will have to sacrifice some of the discount, because the in-house discount is 35%. I don't think that will change. So if you want the benefit and the comfort of doing an in-house breed in the future when that comes in, you will only get a 35% discount. And then that's where that dynamic of breeding across stables or outside your stable to get the 55% discount will have to come at the risk of putting your cheap horse into stud. Do you know what I mean? And potentially risking other people sniping. So if you put your Genesis Zed 1 in at $500 to get the 55% discount on top of that, you're probably going to lose a couple of covers, all right? But at the moment, you might like to, if Zed Run in 6 months' time had private breeding and Zed Runs were still generating, or Z2s were still generating some pretty good profit, you might like to breed in the comfort of your own stable and get 35% discount rather than risk losing those covers outside a stable. Be an interesting dynamic there. Looking forward to that too. So I think the fact that the 55 or 57% discount or 56, whatever it is, outside stables will be a really interesting dynamic once we have private breeding, because it will encourage people to take a risk. That's good. And it will see, you know, still seeing those cheaper horses in the stud. All right, for people that really want to try and take that risk and maximize their profit. Now, what can Zed do? What are some potential solutions moving forward? Things that Zed can do, I'll run through them initially. We got burn for reward. Okay, so burn for reward, that would be where Zed Run on the Zed website would have a system where you can burn a horse and get a reward back for that. Now you might be able to get, you know, in the future Zed might have a in-house token. We're all hoping it's going to be glue. Let's hope for glue. We all want glue to be the in-house token where we can burn our bad horses and get 10, 100, 200, 1,000 glue tokens, all right? And maybe those glue tokens can be used for breeding. So you could burn 3 bad horses and give you enough glue to maybe create 1 new horse. That gives us some real positive ratios in the breeding system, because if you can burn 3 bad horses and generate 1 new, well then you're -2 horses for that transaction, which will put some supply pressure on the overall economy. That could work, okay, to get rid of some of the not so great horses. You could also have, I love, and these are not my ideas, these are ideas that I've seen tossed around either my Facebook group or the Discord when I'm on there. I'm not on there a lot, but some very good ideas. We could have, I love this, well, actually I'll leave that one till last because it's my favorite idea. We could have burn, when I say burn for a reward, we could also have, you know, Zed Runners implementing skins, so, or other kind of in-house merch. You know, you could burn a horse and get a t-shirt, anything like that. That could work as well. Now, you could also have a further restriction to breeding numbers, right? Boo. Or maybe, I don't know. How do you feel about that? Maybe. So instead of fillies being able to breed once every month, you could knock it out to once every year, right? That would instantly lift the prices on the offspring, but also instantly put a huge dent in everyone's breeding aspirations, okay? So that's probably not the most favoured solution, not from my perspective and probably not from yours. We could also, creative solutions, what if, right, they reduce the ratio of fillies to colts, okay? So the fillies are the ones that sort of restrict the breeding numbers. So if you went to do a breed and instead of getting 50-50 fillies, you only got like 1 in 10. That would see a tremendous spike in the filly prices, maybe some downward pressure on the colt prices. But overall, in general, it's going to slow down the amount of new offspring that can be produced exponentially. Because at the moment, if you start with, you know, 10 fillies this month, well, next month you've got, well, if we're doing it based on averages, let's assume that you produce 10 more offspring the next month and 5 of them are going to be fillies and 5 are colts. Then the next month you've got 15 fillies that you can, in 30 days, produce or rebreed again. And then if you keep going with that, every 30 days, potentially you've got a 50% increase in the fillies that can produce horses. So you've got a 50% increase in the horses that are could be coming into the system. And if you're not seeing a 50% increase in demand, you're going to see downwards pressure. So if you only got 1 in 10 fillies, you're only seeing a 10% increase in the potential upside of breeding each month, which could be somewhere closer to the growth going forward. So that could be something that they could implement as well. I'm only throwing these out. I don't know that they're good ideas, but they're just creative solutions. There's a lot of solutions. So if you love the concept of Zed, just be aware there's a lot of creative solutions that can make this into, or will make this into, the game, you know, the powerhouse game that we want it to be. I think that will be the case. Raise breeding minimums. I'm not sure that's going to do. So raising breeding minimums would see an increase in the prices of all the horses currently within the system. Yes, absolutely. Look, I don't know that the breeding minimums are perfect. I think they need a little bit of another rejig at some stage, because I think, as we noted in that video, I think that the difference between breeding Genesis and legendaries and exclusives might, there maybe not be enough difference there. So maybe Genesis could be a little bit more expensive to get a bit more of a gap between Genesis and Legends, and a bit more of a gap between breeding Legends and exclusives, and a bit more of a gap between breeding exclusives and elites, for example. That could work. Okay, but just blindly increasing the breeding minimums is not going to fix the problem that we're looking at. It will probably give an uptick to the prices on OpenSea for the horses currently in the ecosystem, but as far as profitability of breeding, it's just going to shift the bar up, but there'll still probably be the same issue. We could also, fingers crossed, hope for a huge growth. All right, so if all of a sudden we had 1 million players joining, well, of course, the demand will go up, and the supply may not meet that demand, and prices will go up. So that could be a thing as well. And a lot of people are like, when is Zed going to advertise and bring in the big, you know, the big growth? Well, I think as soon as they're confident they can handle it. You know, the last thing we want is for 1 million players to join and the whole site crashes and there's all these problems and issues, and then everyone leaves, okay, with a sour taste in our mouth. We had a little bit of a taste of that towards the beginning of this year when we saw that massive growth and the site couldn't really handle it, and it wasn't a fun experience. So slow growth might be the better path forward. The idea that I love, and I don't know who came up with this, but imagine a Hunger Games style tournament where you put in all your donkeys and they are basically a ticket to entry, and then all bar the finalists. So let's say there was 2,000 horses enter a Hunger Games tournament, and every single horse that doesn't make the top 12 finale final race gets burnt. So you lose like 1,988 horses or whatever. Okay, that would be epic, and you could make this a major sort of knockout type tournament that happens once a month, and you could be burning 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 horses. I would enter a horse in that. I would enter a horse in that tournament, or maybe several horses, and you would find that people would start trying to breed the minimum level horse. So if you can breed a cross or a pacer for $20 or $30, you start doing that because people are going to buy those horses as a lucky lotto ticket to try and get into the Hunger Games tournament and win this top prize. Maybe there's a $50,000 first prize for winning that event. And of course, but the majority of the horses get burnt at the end of that. So there's a lot of creative solutions to sort of bring this ecosystem into some sort of balance. Now, of course, remember, wherever there is free money, people are going to breed and supply is going to go up, and it's going to put pressure downwards on the overall prices in the ecosystem. Now, probably one of the only ways to keep prices up above, like absolutely above, so that every single horse, well, not every single horse, bred for profit, or can be bred for profit. And that's probably not a realistic scenario in any case. But of all of those solutions, You need the horses to be burnt at a higher rate or equal to the rate of the new people coming in, okay? So you need to find that balance between horses being bred, demand of people coming in for buying horses, and horses being burnt. So there's this three-prong sort of, or there's these three elements to the balance of the equilibrium. Now, at the moment, we have no burning mechanism, so that's not even in the system. So at the moment, the balance is purely between horses being bred and horses being bought by the new players coming in, okay? And at the moment, absolutely, it looks like there are more horses being bred than what the demand requires, and that's putting the downwards pressure on the system. So once we get some sort of burn mechanism, and I think that is inevitable in the future, I think that will be in there absolutely, in my opinion. I don't know when, 6 months, 12 months, who knows? Let's bring on the Hunger Games tournament, that will be unreal. But once we get that burn mechanism, then that starts taking horses out of the system, all right? And that puts upwards pressure. Whether or not we combine that with, you know, some more filly restrictions, whether that be how the fillies are ratio versus colts, or how many breeds the fillies can have per year. You know, currently it's 12, maybe it gets reduced to 6. Don't kill the messenger. I'm only giving you potential solutions. But what you need to understand is those three mechanisms: breeding supply, new player demand, and burning demand, if you like, how they all sort of figure out, okay? Now, for those that are saying the sky is falling and the prices are going to zero, well, is it really? I don't think so. The Zed ecosystem is growing, and it does have potential to grow much, much larger. One of, and I'll wrap this up here because this has been a super long video. I can't see how long we've been going for, 45 minutes or so. One of the huge things for NFTs, and look, the NFT space is going to be a wild ride. It has already been a wild ride for the first 12 months, and it's only going to get wilder, in my opinion. And I don't necessarily mean that in an direct upwards rocket to the moon. I think we're going to see some pretty savage ups and downs in the coming 6-12 months, absolutely. And I'm not talking about Zed Run, I'm talking about NFTs in general. I think the space is pretty hectically frothy at the moment across the board. And if you look at the first cycle of crypto, or the first cycle of Bitcoin, and the first cycle of Ethereum, look, they don't last forever. But the good news is, cycle number 2, in the case of Ethereum and Bitcoin and a lot of the other cryptos, has come around. You know, you might go up to, you know, let's say you got a coin that goes to $1,000, you know, it goes from $1 to $1,000 in the first cycle, the first peak cycle, and then drops down to, what, I don't know, back to $100. And then in the next cycle, they often go up to, you know, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $10,000. You know, they do it again. Just have a look at the natural cycles of Bitcoin and the natural cycles of Ethereum, and ask yourself, is the NFT space going to do something similar? Where are we currently? Where are we currently in the cycle of NFTs? I believe we're in the first cycle, but are we at the top? Are we correcting? You know, where are we? And you need to get a little bit of an assumption of that to know when to buy and sell or hold. You know, I'll be holding most of my genesis right through any downward cycle that we see, okay? So that was a little side note of where we are in the cycle. I don't exactly know where we are in the cycle, but I know we're going to see some, well, I feel like we're going to see some ups and downs, and we could still see 10x from here, or we could see a massive plummet in the next 6 months. Both are on the cards, and I think both are fairly viable. Now, where were we? Lost my train of thought. This isn't helping me whatsoever. But we've got those three elements, okay? You've got breeding, supply, buyer, demand, and of course the burning mechanism in the future. I don't know what to do. I can't tell you what you should be doing. If you're making money breeding, like, keep doing it. Absolutely, keep doing it. Have a look at those prices. If you're looking at buying horses and you're looking at wanting to make money breeding, well, I've just given you some insights as to where to do your research on what might be the best scenario for buying horses. Well, the interesting the very final thing, is the fact that the Genesis supply is fixed, okay? Which means that the legendary supply is fixed. Or sorry, the legendary supply per month is somewhat fixed, okay? But once you get to the exclusive level, you start to get a little bit more exponential supply growth there, okay? So you're always going to see a little bit more pressure the lower you get down that breed type, all right? That's not to say that you can't make money down there, but you're always going to see a little bit more pressure down there because you get exponential supply growth once you get to the exclusive level. So I don't know how many Genesis are currently in the system. Let's do some numbers. Let's have a look. How many Genesis? According to OpenSea, there's 27,000. Let's call it 28,000. So there's still roughly another 10,000 to come from Zed Run at some stage. I wouldn't expect too many public drops. I think they're going to do it in a more creative manner, because dropping 10,000 horses to some sort of public mint when the prices are dramatically below the floor is just going to be an ugly experience for most of us. I don't think they're going to do that. But anyway, we weren't talking about that, but seeing we've got an hour-long video, we may as well sidetrack, you know, whatever. All right, now we got 28,000 Genesis. All right, so if let's assume they're all 50-50 male-female. So if every one of those was to breed, you could potentially have 14,000 legends a month. All right? And that's fixed. That's somewhat fixed. You're not going to get that each and every month because not all the horses are breeding, but that's as many as you can get. Worst case scenario is 14,000. But then that doesn't mean that the supply of legends is fixed. The supply of Genesis is fixed at what you're seeing here. Currently 28,000, but a total fixed supply of, I think it's 36 or 38,000 ever to be produced. All right, but the amount of legends grows each and every month. How many legends have we got total now? $37. So at some point there was no legends at all, okay? And now there's 10,000 more legends than what there is Genesis. So there's only ever 14,000 Genesis that can be bred every month. So there's only ever 14,000 strike that, reverse a little bit. There's only ever 14,000 legends that can be bred and sold each month, but that growth is exponential. That keeps adding and adding and adding and adding. So although there's only ever can be 14,000 legends bred and sold each month, so that is fixed, that will keep the prices high, you would think. Once you start breeding those legends into exclusives, you can see these numbers are starting to rise. Okay, 34,000. So, you know, at some point there was only 1,000 legendaries and you were only able to breed 500 exclusives a month. All right, but as that grows and grows and grows and grows and grows, the amount of legends that can produce exclusives, this is them here, is now, you know, if every one of those legends was to breed, assuming they're all roughly 50-50 male and female, you can now get almost 20,000 exclusives coming from those legendaries each month. So that pressure, I hope that's making sense. There's an exponential pressure on the breeding supply for the exclusive per month numbers and the elite per numbers and all the horses below, okay? But for legendaries, there is a fixed supply, all right? So as the game grows, you see where I'm kind of going? As the game grows, there'll only ever be X amount of legends that can be produced every month because there's a fixed supply of Genesis that is not growing. But once you get to the legendaries, they are growing, so the exclusive level is going to see the dilution. I hope that kind of well, not just the exclusive, but exclusive, elite, cross and pacer as you go down. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. All right. Now, the other thing I want to touch on because why not? Because we're at an hour and I'm getting carried away. The other thing I want to touch on is the fact that exclusives, in general, on average, are worth more than elites. Now, your exclusive females can breed with a Genesis male. Your exclusive females can breed with a Genesis male, and the resulting offspring will retain the exclusive breed type level. All right, now why is this important? Because those Genesis males, right, so let's, and it's also legend with a legend, it doesn't matter so much with the legendaries actually. Let's go here, exclusive. And we want to see the fillies actually, and the mares. Yep, roughly half. That's what would be expected. So there's currently 17,000 exclusive fillies and mares in the system, regardless of what they are, whether they be Buterins, Nakamotos, etc., or crosses or paces, or sorry, not crosses or paces. We're just looking at exclusives. Got a bit carried away there, but regardless of the blood type, Nakamoto, Zabo, Finny, or Buterin, we have 17,000 exclusive fillies and mares in the system. Now, if you want to get the most bang for your buck potentially and hold that exclusive level, now the reason you would want to maybe hold that exclusive level on your offspring is because exclusives are worth more money than elites on average. Let's see if that rings true actually. Let's see if there's any proof in that pudding. If we say an exclusive, let's make an exclusive, let's say Nakamoto Z5. Let's see, I don't even know if this is true. Let's see if this is true. Nakamoto Z5. Yeah. And we'll make it fairly consistent. We'll say Colt, and we'll look for an unnamed. There you go, 0.19, righto. If we change that to elite, actually let's just make it Z6. Because there'll be more, there should be more elites down at that level to compare to. All right, unnamed, 0.1213, okay, 0.1213. All right, if we change that, remember that 0.1213, which is what in dollars? 360. All right. I realise I'm not still on the full headshot here, but that's okay. If we change this back to, from exclusive to elite, $360, 0.12. The elites at the same level. So we got Nakamoto Colt Z7 elites. Not a lot of difference, to be honest. In fact, wow, that's surprising. In fact, 0.15. So that's interesting in itself. I'm not going to go into whether that's across the board, that elites are seemingly more expensive than the exclusives at this level. Maybe that's because there's not that many Z7 elites. I don't know what's going on there, but I did expect, in general, the elites to be less in value than the exclusives, okay? Because I was going to make the point that the Genesis horses, the Genesis stallions, are going to see a lot of demand because of the fact that the exclusive level fillies are going to keep growing and growing and growing and growing, but the Genesis level studs are going to remain fixed. So, but that might not be the case, and let's go to Z8s and see if that changes. Or let's go to Nakamoto Z10s, for example, and see if we get something more along the lines of what I was expecting to see here. So Z10, a Z10 Colt Elite unnamed. Wow, these are going for good coin, aren't they? 0.13 or 129. 129, and if we change that to exclusive, thinking I might need to change my breeding plans a little bit. I haven't been breeding elites because I just assumed there wasn't a lot of money in there, but looks like there is. If we change that to exclusive now, so that was 0.129, and if we look at the same thing and just change that to exclusive, oh, there you go, okay. So you're looking at 0.3, all right, so that's more along the lines of what I would expect. So you're looking at double the price when you're getting down to Nakamoto Z10 exclusive colts. It's a little bit, I'm sure if you looked at that across the board, because we've just cherry picked from here and here, and the sample sizes aren't that huge, but if you look at that across the board, or maybe look at some of the stat sites that have sales histories, you might see that the exclusives on average go for more money than the elites, hence will put a little bit more pressure on the stud value of the Genesis males. And the reason this is really, well, the reason I wanted to touch on this, and the reason this might be important moving forward is, of course, the exclusive fillies. So if we go back, I hope that made sense. I'm sure it probably didn't. If we go back to just exclusive fillies, the reason I was just looking at colts there, by the way, is just for a pricing example on offspring, not because of what we were talking about with the fillies. But if we jump back here to exclusive fillies, keep in mind the exclusive fillies breed with the Genesis colts to hold the exclusive level. If there's a financial incentive for that, there's 14,500 roughly exclusive fillies in the system. Now keep in mind, at one point when we only had Genesis horses, there was no fillies at all. So we've gone from no fillies at all to almost 15,000 fillies, exclusive fillies. And if the majority of those want to breed with a Genesis stud, there is only ever going to be 18,000 ever Genesis studs to breed with. So we're nearly at that point where if every single filly wanted to breed with a Genesis stud, it's not possible. There's not that supply. So the question I want to pose to you is, if that financial incentive to produce the exclusive level stays, right? If the exclusives remain higher on average than the elites, and I think they will, there's an interesting dynamic there, because the rate of increase of those exclusives being able to breed is going to slow down. That exponential curve that has currently gone from 0 and seen us breed 14,500 or 14,606 exclusives has to slow, right? Because currently the ways of breeding those exclusives are able to breed at the maximum capacity because they haven't exceeded the amount of Genesis horses that are there. But eventually that's going to slow to a rate that matches the amount of covers of Genesis horses, the Genesis males per month, if you know where I'm going with that, which is what? That's 18,000 times 3. So we're not quite there yet. We still have to get to around 50,000, which would be maximum capacity. All right. You see that interesting market dynamic there as well, between the Genesis studs that can produce 45,000, let's say, let's round it off to 45,000 covers a month. That's going to be how many exclusives can be bred. All right, it's really, really interesting. And then also the elite level, the Genesis studs can hold the elite level as well. So there's this really interesting market dynamic there between those Genesis studs and the exclusive and the elites. I'm sure that doesn't make much sense, but try and get your head around that and try and figure that out, and what that might do to all those different breed levels, and in particular the one I was touching on is what that might do for Genesis studs as well in the future. Because, you know, once there is 100,000 exclusive and elites, all vying to try and get a Genesis cover to hold that offspring level around about that exclusive and elite level. It's going to do interesting things to the market dynamic of not only the Genesis studs, but also the exclusive and elite levels, because that exponential curve has to slow down. There's so many market dynamics coming into this space. So at the moment, you're seeing it balance because everything is exponentially growing, but that growth is going to slow from natural factors that are in the system already, but potential burn features and other potential restrictions on breeding. So it's really, really interesting. I hope that helps. It's a really interesting space. Look, the prices are going down at the moment. Have they bottomed? Maybe, maybe not. I think they're probably getting close to the bottom. Not financial advice, but once we start seeing some burn mechanics and some other influences, and we reach also the maximum potential of that exponential growth, because the Genesis supply is fixed. So that means the legendary supply is fixed, and we're getting close, well, not close, but eventually we'll get close to what, you know, the exclusive supply. We'll see some growth pressure on that as well. Thanks for watching along. I hope you enjoyed it. It's been a long one. What is it? An hour? An hour and 2 minutes. Let's catch you again later. Bye for now.